am showing you the buyer advisory today. A lot of times, most people do not see this advisory until they are under contract, and I like to give this to buyers up front, so as it's a great resource with lots of information and lots of links that can help you to just get prepared, right? To get some information and to answer any questions you might have in greater detail than maybe I might be able to, or give you specific references. All right, I'm going to go through a little bit really quick, but I'm just going to really post the buyer advisor here so you can download it and take a look at it on your own. This is the table of contents. It tells you what's inside, documents that you should know, your contract, what an MLS printout has on it, subdivision public reports, seller property disclosure statements. I'm going to talk about this just a bit. When you go under contract, the seller will provide these SPUDs. And in the SPUDs, the seller is going to go ahead and have to disclose any material fact known about the house. So if they put new windows in, if they did a new roof, if they had a roof leak, if there was a slab problem, if there was a fire, okay, these are all material facts that need to be disclosed. Moving on, we have CC&Rs, which have to do with covenants, conditions, and restrictions of communities. Then you've got HOA governing documents, which are the CC&Rs. You also have articles of incorporation, bylaws, rules, and regulations, okay? And often architectural control standards. I think the other day I was answering someone's question in a group about RVs not being able, a lot of places not accepting RVs because the RV actually stands above the height of the wall, and so some HOAs do not allow it. Keep in mind, every HOA is different. There's not like a standard template form that they use. They are all, every HOA has got their own specific intricacies, rules, regulations, and so it is really important that you as a buyer receive the information once you go under contract and get in there and look at it as quickly as you can, because if there's something that jumps out at you that is a red flag, we can address that while we're under this due diligence period and your earnest deposit is protected. HOA disclosures, it would show you the amount of payments, when they're due, who they're due to, if there's transfer fees and how much they are, what the HOA would require up front. Usually it's 2 to 3 months. They basically are collecting until the next quarterly payment would be due. A lot of them don't charge monthly. They charge quarterly, and so that's why they would collect a few months at close of escrow. Community Facilities District, I talked about this in a group the other day, and the CFDs are basically bonds that developers take out so that they can acquire land and build infrastructure, okay? And then the cost of that is broken down between all of the lots, okay, and then passed on to each homeowner. And CFDs, there's a lot of different ones. They're taken out at different times. Like, for example, Sundance 1 in Buckeye is the first phase or the first CFD in Sundance. That was from 2001. And so when they moved out of the first phase into subsequent phases, they had, Sundance 2, right? And so these CFDs are coming on at different times. They're all a little different. That CFD 1 is paid off. And so if you were to buy a house in Sundance out in Buckeye and that house is within the CFD 1, there would be no balance left on, there would be no CFD charges any longer. One thing I did, and I knew this, but I just didn't have clarity on it, and I called the town of Buckeye the other day, and I did get some clarity. In addition to CFDs, there's also what's called special assessments. Now, Verado is another community out in Buckeye, and we used to live there, and they have a special assessment. Now the special assessment is forever. So whenever there's a transfer via a sale, the buyer pays 1/4% of the purchase price. So for example, a $400,000 purchase, 1% would be $4,000. A quarter of 1% would be $1,000. So if someone would buy a $400,000 home in Verrado right now, at close of escrow, they would be charged $1,000 for the special assessment, and that goes to the community. I would imagine. I'm not really sure exactly who gets it, but moving forward, we're talking about on the buyer advisory. Lead-based paint form is really for homes that were built prior to 1978. Professional inspection report and the need to get one, or the importance of getting one, an inspection, a home inspection. You're going to spend $200,000, $300,000, $500,000, $600,000. It's very makes a lot of sense to go into it knowing what issues there might be with the house, and or give us a chance to have the seller repair them before going and making that home your own. Talks about termites and other wood-destroying insects. I'll just tell you right now, in Arizona, you either have termites, you've had termites, or you're going to get them. That's just the way it is. Termites are, they're like scorpions and snakes. They're around. There's ways to keep termites from happening. You don't want to have water, drip lines or bushes really close to the house where there'd be water. That's going to bring the termites. So there's ways you can mitigate them, but just know that they are common. And FERPTA is for foreign investment and real estate property taxes. That's really for owners of foreign owners of real estate here. It talks about swimming pools. There's also swimming pool barriers that are important. That's a separate disclosure. Septic and on-site water treatment facilities. Talks about well water issues, soil problems. I was mentioning the other day in the East Valley, there's fissures and sinkholes. And so if you were to buy land or a real estate, a home in the East Valley, if you're within the area where there's known fissures, the realtor should be disclosing that. That to me is enough of a red flag to just not go there, because you can imagine what would happen if all of a sudden there's a fissure or a sinkhole under your home, right? It gets quarantined. It's a nightmare. You don't want to deal with that, right? It talked about pests, cockroaches, rattlesnakes, black widow spiders, scorpions, termites, and other pests are common. Deaths and felonies on the property. This is important because in Arizona, it's not obligated that a seller or their realtors or even your realtor would disclose the cause of a natural death or even a murder or suicide. So I have issue with this, and I don't care what anybody says, right? I have to live with myself. If there's a death on a property that was like a murder or a violent death anyway, and I know of it, I am going to disclose that to you because I don't remember the name of that gal from California that killed her then boyfriend here in Chandler, Casey Anthony maybe, and that house sold, went to foreclosure, and then it was sold sometime down the road, okay? And a woman bought that house that had relocated to Arizona from somewhere else, and she noticed there was people in front of her house taking pictures all the time. And so she went out and talked to somebody, and they told her, oh, yeah, this is where that horrific crime happened. And she was devastated. Now, it's not that she has any legal recourse against her realtors, but, we have to have a conscience, right? So moving on, we're talking about, imported drywall. Years ago before the last crash, there was, when their construction was in mass, we were getting drywall from China, right? And so I know that there's some issues with Chinese drywall. Talking about radon gas, drug labs, okay? This form has plenty of links for you to go ahead and get yourself educated on a lot of these different these different concerns that you might have, okay? Talk about Superfund sites, crime statistics, sex offenders, okay? Military and public airports. So out in the West Valley, we have the Luke Air Force Base. So if you were to be moving in, they call it the surprise map. But if you're going anywhere where that you're in that flight zone, which is basically all the way up in Buckeye and Surprise and Peoria, down through portions of Goodyear, through Buckeye, and all the way out to Gila Bend and back. That's their flight pattern. You're going to see and hear military planes. I quite like it. Zoning, planning, neighborhood services, schools, city profile report, market conditions advisory, a wire fraud. Here's another one that's really important right now. The scammers are in full force, okay? And so they're they're figuring out that people are in the purchase process. And then they are being really creative and making it like they are the title company. Then they're sending wiring instructions to buyers, which the wiring instructions are totally fraudulent. And there has been several instances where buyers have sent all the money that they needed to make the purchase to a fictitious wire account. It wasn't a title company. Once that money's gone, it's gone. And, it's been devastating for some people. So, Andrew Texador at HomeSmart Real Estate. I've been helping people move with confidence since 2001. And when I say that, it's because I give them an education. I hold their hand through the process. I make it as easy for them as possible. They know that I know what I'm talking about, and I'm aggressive. I love to negotiate on their behalf. I use the latest, greatest technology to help me and to help my clients. For example, right now I just got an IDX that updates every 15 minutes. It is the most accurate information on listings in Arizona. And if you'd like to have that so that you can search and save searches and get listing results, if you've been looking at all, you've seen these houses under $300,000 are moving really quick, and it would give you that buyer's edge. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me. Looking forward to helping you in any way I can. Feel free to reach out. I'm here to help.